Hey everybody, welcome to Jacob's Quest, and today I just finished watching episode 5 of Loki, and this is definitely going to end up being probably one of the trippier episodes of the season, and it's a really great lead up to who knows what's happening next episode. So basically, yeah, last episode we had ended them with the time loom exploding and the multiverse, I don't know, going out of control entirely, I guess. Like, there is no more sacred timeline. Everything is a branch timeline. At least that's the way it seemed, because Loki is now time slipping again. His temporal aura is all out of whack. I don't really I gotta sit here and like analyze the first episode again to understand exactly why he's time slipping again instead of just gone, but I don't know. And basically what we end up having is an entire episode where he's going from different branched timelines in different decades, where everyone who was in that room, he's now at different branch timelines living normal lives, and they have no idea who Loki is, and Loki has to find a way to gather them all together, and he's gonna try to go back to that exact moment before the time loom explodes and figure out a way to stop it from happening, right? So this is basically the big setup to what the finale is gonna be. And his plan this entire episode is to gather everyone together and use this new version of Ouroboros, who's built himself a temp pad in just like 2 years. He's built himself a temp pad using a TVA handbook that Loki gives him, which is very crazy impressive, by the way. Like, he just has a book and now he's able to build one of these things. That's insane. Anyways, so he gathers everyone together with a lot of convincing, and Sylvie is the one who's reluctant to go, because this is ultimately what she wanted to happen. She wanted the TVA to be destroyed, and she wanted everyone to just be able to live their lives on the timeline like they naturally would, right? So in a sense, like, she's getting what she wanted, and you can see her point of view in this, right? Like, this is the ultimate thing of free will, is that, like, you know, they were never intruded by He Who Remains or the TVA or anything, right? They were just like allowed to be what they were going to be. However, Loki admits that, like, yes, I want my friends back. It gives me purpose. The TVA and my friends and everything that's happened to me has given me new purpose, essentially, right? Because as we saw in the first season, like, he lost all of his glorious purpose that he thought he had. So he manages to get everyone together except for Sylvie, until Sylvie's branch starts spaghettifying, and we don't really know why. All these other branches are starting to spaghettify. They're starting to get out of control, and it's not like when they used to prune branches and send them to the end of time for Elias to devour. These are spaghettifying in the same way that we saw Victor Timely spaghettify, and it's, again, it's not entirely clear why. So it does kind of, I guess, show that in some way the sacred timeline must be necessary, I guess, because letting the branches just infinitely, completely out of control just expand seems to result in them eventually being destroyed. I don't, hopefully they give us some explanation as to why this is the case. It just, I don't know, something, it can't be stable about it, I guess. I don't know. They'll give us some kind of timey-wimey explanation as like, oh yeah, the ever-expanding multiverse with no time loom and no sacred timeline to concentrate it all and focus it all. It just dissolves into spaghettification somehow. I don't know. I'm really hoping we get an explanation as to why that happens, but in any case, it does happen. And so Sylvie goes back to Loki, and they're like, all right, we're all here, let's use our temporal aura to coordinate ourselves and be able to time jump to the specific time right before the time loom explodes. But before they can do anything, they start spaghettifying too. The time that they're in, which is Ouroboros's branch timeline little laboratory area, they start spaghettifying and everything starts dissolving. And this is the moment when Loki manages to, out of emotion, control his time slipping, which is something that, you know, OB was kind of telling him is like the difference between science and fiction is the why instead of the what and the how, you know. And Loki says it's the who, which I guess he's referring to Sylvie, because it's after she died. She's the last one to spaghettify. He is able to control it now. And so in order to save everyone from spaghettifying, he's like, oh, I can go back and I can rewrite everything. So he time slips away right back to the moment as it's about to happen, as the time loom is about to explode. And that's where the episode ends. So, you know, there's a lot of questions, obviously, like many Loki episodes. And I will say, like, if you consider like where this episode starts and where this episode ends, it literally ends like just by rewinding a couple minutes, you know, like the time loom explodes, and now by the end of this episode he is just a few minutes before the time loom explodes. And that's it, you know. So yeah, this is one episode where like it is pretty trippy. It's a pretty crazy cool sci-fi concept episode, but ultimately you could say like, okay, but he just learns how to time slip in control of it, right? Which, you know, if Loki was ever godlike, it is now, right? Like surely, because think about this, Loki does not need a temp pad anymore. If he can control this time slipping, then he can attempt this infinitely. He can keep going back before things went horribly wrong over and over again until he manages to find a way to make it right. Which, you know, to me, that means he's more powerful than any version of Kang and any version of him who has all this technology, because Loki doesn't need any of that. He can just go back, you know. Like it doesn't, you know, I don't feel like you can do anything to him now. So yeah, it's very interesting. And what does this mean for Loki, right? Because let's say they fix the time loom and everything's fine, but like unless they do the whole thing they did in the first episode where they managed to like solve his time slipping issue, I mean, it's not an issue anymore. He can control it. So now it's like the biggest advantage in the world. He can literally go back in time and change history in a way that, you know, the Avengers cannot do. The Avengers go back in time on the sacred timeline in Endgame, and they create branches by changing history. But Loki's different. Loki can literally change history, change the way that things happen, you know. So I don't know. I you know, like there are so many questions, and of course, obviously, the entire series is time travel stuff. So like, we're always gonna have a bunch of questions, you know. And I'm sure that if we break it all down, somehow it doesn't all completely fit together. But I am really enjoying the ride, and even though this episode could essentially be summed up in a couple sentences, it was a really enjoyable ride, you know. And I just, you know, again, we're meeting different versions of these characters. Oh, and of course, Mobius finally got on his jet ski. He was a jet ski salesman, which, you know, I think we've seen like small snippets of and some promotional footage, and so we finally got that payoff. He was a jet ski salesman. Some part of him, even though his mind was erased, he must remember that, and that's why he's got this obsession about it. I was expecting to see some version of Kang, because, you know, they were talking about how they needed to gather everyone that was there, and Kang, you know, while he wasn't in the room, he was just outside the room. He was like he was the guy out there trying to fix the thing. You know, he took a couple steps, but you know, he was out there trying to fix it. So it is interesting that they did not need his temporal aura, you know, or maybe Loki was just gonna see if they could do it without him, because any version of Kang they bring in here is a risk, because you don't know who you're bringing, right? It could be any guy. But yeah, in any case, this was just, you know what, I really loved the zaniness of this one. It was really fun, and like always, I have tons of questions. Like Obi's laboratory room, it's got like this big ceiling structure that looks an awful lot like the one that he has in the TVA. What's up with that? You know, all those tubes, like he had a very similar tube structure on his ceiling. You know, like, does that mean anything? I don't know. But yeah, just I had really fun with this one, and it's a great penultimate episode because next week I think is when we're finally gonna get like real consequential stuff. And I think that is one thing that I keep seeing some criticism about this show is like, is any of this gonna ultimately matter? Is any of this gonna affect anything moving forward? And you know, of course, I gotta bring up we just had this really big Variety article about Marvel and all the struggles they're going through, and all the, you know, are they even gonna go with the whole Kang multiverse thing, you know, in a couple years? Or, you know, we got the whole Jonathan Majors problem. They're thinking about Doctor Doom, maybe. You know, there's just all kinds of turmoil in the background of this, but despite all of that, despite that huge article and it being like the topic of the town, I'm still enjoying this show, you know what I mean? So like, if nothing else, the individual products can still be like or projects can still be enjoyable on their own, even though we do have to question a little bit of like, you know, this show was filmed like what, a year and a half ago. So much stuff has changed since then, so you know, what comes from this, I don't know. But right now, I don't think it matters. All I know is that yeah, I'm really having fun with this one. So anyways, let me know what you guys think about the penultimate episode of Loki season 2. Where do you think this is going? What's gonna happen at the end? He can control his time slipping. Is he like even more of a god now? Because, you know, essentially you just gave Loki time powers, you know? So yeah, I don't know. It feels like he's more invincible than ever. So yeah, let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you guys on the next episode. Bye.